Hello, my name is Christy Wold McCormick. I'm the Assistant Vice Provost and University Registrar at the University of Colorado Boulder. I was invited to lead a brief talk on data management within the Office of the Registrar. This presentation is designed to inform the CU community to one of the larger data management groups on campus, the kind of data we manage, and how access to that data is granted. In addition, I was asked to discuss the importance of appropriate use and privacy of student data to ensure confidentiality and equity is maintained across campus. These days, it seems everyone, both on and off campus, wants access to student data. There is a general sentiment that data should be opened up to as many stakeholders and interested parties as possible. The push for easier access and transparency is often justified to help individuals conduct assessments, write reports, implement student success programs, and apply for grants, as just a few examples. Many of these reasons and requests for data are very legitimate, and others can be handled through working with campus experts who best understand, can help analyze, and/or properly interpret the data on their behalf. Exercising caution in who has access to and what kind of student data is important for a variety of reasons. First, there may already be existing reports or data resources to facilitate the requester's reason for inquiry. Second, sometimes the data being requested is not really the right data needed for their end goal. In addition, if the plan is to use or publish data in a public-facing manner, it is critical that the university is consistent in its definitions, uses, and figures being cited. Finally, it's critically important, particularly when working with student data that contains personally identifiable information, or PII, that the requester understands what can and cannot be further disclosed. Our goal in the Office of the Registrar is to ensure that there is integrity in the data being used, that our reputation as an institution is preserved, and that we maintain legal compliance. Student data privacy is and has been a legal matter for the past nearly 50 years under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. While this is not intended to be a FERPA presentation, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least briefly discuss it when talking about student data and data privacy. FERPA is not the sole responsibility of the registrar or campus legal, but rather it is a shared responsibility, regardless of your level of access to data. FERPA helps protect and prevent unfairly advantaging or disadvantaging students because it protects the PII data. Protecting student data is the law, but it's also the right thing to do. FERPA is what guides our practices and policies related to student data access, usage, and sharing. FERPA clearly defines what education records are, and they're often, but not always, in the form of student data, which are defined in FERPA as education records. Education records are records under FERPA that are related to a student. They can be in any format or medium, and they're maintained by an educational agency or institution. They're not law enforcement records, alumni records, or sole possession notes, however. FERPA identifies individuals or entities who may have access to education records, which are primarily the students themselves and school officials with legitimate educational interest. University officials must demonstrate a legitimate interest in order to gain access to student education records, and they may only access student education records to fulfill the responsibilities of their official role with the university. Any university official who needs information about a student in the course of performing instructional, advisory, or administrative duties for CU Boulder has a legitimate educational interest. FERPA identifies directory information and non-directory information. Directory information is generally that information that is not harmful or considered an invasion of privacy if disclosed to a third party. It may generally be released without student consent. Non-directory information, on the other hand, is confidential student records that are maintained by an institution and may not be released without the explicit consent of a student. FERPA does allow institutions to identify and list what their directory information is. At CU, across all of the various campuses of the university, we have a common set of directory information. It's important to understand that unless a student has requested full privacy, this is the information that may be released if requested. However, institutions can still exercise discretion in whether or not to release this information. Primarily, we want to make sure that we are protecting and safeguarding students. Many training resources that are available on campus, including from the Office of the Registrar, Skillsoft modules, and the federal government site are available to campus users and others. Students own their data, and school officials are considered the custodians of that data. As such, students have several ways at the CU campuses in how they can control access to or release their education record data. The first is through a security passphrase, which is set by the student and is used to verify their identity in place of a photo ID or over the phone, for example. Students must correctly state their passphrase that they set in Campus Solutions before CU can discuss their information. Guest access is for others to log into the MyCU info portal and see certain information about students that students have specifically granted them. Consent to release is an administrative view where staff can verify who a student has authorized FERPA consent to. Each user has a unique password, and when provided, CU staff may disclose the specific information to the individual that the student has authorized. Full privacy is when a student does not want any of their data, including directory information, shared with third parties. We don't acknowledge the student exists in our systems even. It does have some consequences, so it's something that we consult students on carefully before they take this action. When students are on privacy, this is flagged in the system and excluded from external reports. Those flags are also shown when individuals are provided data about students so that they know not to release that further. However, privacy status does not mean student information can't be used in internal analyses or aggregate reports where there is a legitimate educational interest. Protocols are in place to ensure appropriate use and to minimize the chance of breach, misuse, or abuse of student data. Our primary goal is to balance that access and security to ensure data is used appropriately, and in doing so, we use some security levels to fulfill these requests that are set by the CU system. Security levels are reviewed when determining what access is appropriate for different user roles on campus and what may or may not be released to requesters and reports. Level 1 data is generally considered directory information, whereas levels 4 and 5 data is highly sensitive and seldom shared. Most requests for student data on campus are in the levels 1 to 3 range. There are different types of ways individuals can access or request CU student data. CU Student Information Systems, or CU-SIS, is when people need ongoing access to certain systems to perform their roles on campus. Student data requests are for reports or queries to meet a particular need. We'll often look to see if something already exists or can be slightly modified to fulfill this need. More information about shared data repositories may be found on the Registrar's website. In regard to requests to integrate student data into downstream systems, those requests may be approved and fulfilled either at the campus level or the CU system level, depending on the type of integration and type of data needed. We work with OIT security and procurement services to ensure contract language in vendor contracts contains the necessary IT security and data privacy verbiage, and that they go through the proper review before they're being fulfilled. Finally, Colorado Open Records Act, or CORA, is another means that individuals, particularly outside of the university, can request student data. It's still up to our discretion and to follow rules like FERPA and others in terms of fulfilling those requests, but we do have an office that reviews CORA requests that individuals may access as needed. The type of data we maintain and manage is student data, namely that which is stored in our Student Information System, or CU-SIS. This allows us to store, manage, protect, and use student data in support of the academic mission. CU-SIS is not a single application, but rather a suite of tools and applications that perform functions related to student administration, faculty workload, course management, and others. What the Registrar's Office doesn't directly maintain or approve access to are student financial and financial aid data, though will often help connect requesters with those official sources. We also don't manage HR, finance, or research data. Modern-day registrar's offices are campus hubs of technology, compliance, and student data. This means we both create and maintain data, and we're also primarily responsible for ensuring it is used appropriately and understood, as well as safeguarded. Individuals may request CU-SIS access by completing FERPA and CU-SIS training, and they can submit a CU-SIS access request form or a student data request form or system access to which they need. Requests for specific student data or reports may also be submitted through a form on the Office of the Registrar site. Requests may be fulfilled as an ad hoc or one-time report, or may be turned into a CU data report, which may be run in the future as needed. This is an example of some reports and what CU data looks like. When reviewing requests, we carefully review the type of data or access being requested, what role a requester has on campus. We also look at the purpose of the request or need to ensure the type of data will actually help the requester with their need. Sometimes the requester may be asking the wrong type of data, or don't realize that other types of data already exist to better fulfill their needs. The Office of the Registrar provides operational and term-based data for internal purposes. When approved, we try to provide reminders of need for secure storage and transmission of data, using things like large file transfer protocols, and reminders that it is unlawful to further disclose sensitive data without the student's consent. Data fulfilled should only be stored or retained as long as absolutely necessary and in accordance with record retention schedules. We have record retention policies at the institutional, system, and state level. We also determine if there's another office on campus that's more appropriate to review or fulfill a particular type of data request. For example, on the Boulder campus, we collaborate closely with our colleagues in the Office of Data Analytics, where institutional research resides. That office is often best suited to provide aggregate data or data used for analytical or predictive modeling, as well as longitudinal data analyses and external requests. They also oversee much of the public-facing data and that which is reported to the state or federal levels for official purposes. So it's important to know and work closely with key campus data partners to ensure that there's a shared understanding and consistent application when it comes to fulfilling requests and presenting data findings. The Office of Data Analytics has some wonderful data visualizations on enrollment and graduation, which may be accessible to campus users. In summary, one of the primary goals of the registrar or an office of the registrar is to make sure we are provisioning access carefully to campus and other data users. We also need to make sure that we protect and safeguard student data so as not to unfairly advantage or disadvantage students. We also have to make sure that data requesters properly understand the data that they're requesting and using. And finally, it is our role to make sure that we maintain compliance with the various laws and statutes around student data privacy, records retention, and more. Again, the key is to find balance between data access and data privacy, so both the university and our students can be successful. For additional information or questions, you may contact me at christy.woldmccormick@colorado.edu. And much more information on FERPA training or how to request data, reports, or system access may be found at colorado.edu/registrar. Thank you.